Right. So, hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Tara Peters. I am the communications director here at Commute Seattle, and I have the pleasure of moderating today's event. Before we get started, let me introduce Commute Seattle to anyone on the call who doesn't know us. Commute Seattle is a nonprofit that serves over 200,000 workers citywide through our partnerships with employers, destinations, and public agencies, as well as community organizations. We help people shift to sustainable transportation options and comply with state and city regulations, including Washington's commute trip reduction law. Commute Seattle's mission is to make it easy for everyone across Puget Sound to walk, ride, or roll to Seattle's opportunities. And we envision a region where affordable and sustainable transportation options are the best way for everyone to connect to the important places in their lives. We are excited to host our second event today in our brand new series called Commute University. This series of programs is designed to inform and inspire employee and building transportation coordinators and really any champion of transportation benefits to level up their programs. In this series, you will learn from a broad range of panelists about resources and strategies to help your team get to where they need to go without needing to drive alone. Commute University topics and schedule are responsive to emerging needs, including construction impacts, major events, and new transit infrastructure. After today's event, we will be sending out a post-event survey, so be sure to let us know what ideas you have for future Commute University programs. And with that, I am excited to turn to our program for today. School is in session. Today's lesson is how to become a Bike Month leader, presented by Anna Smalley, Education and Outreach Specialist for Commute Seattle, and Elizabeth Baer, Transportation Specialist for Commute Seattle. In addition to their roles here, Anna and Elizabeth also have the important role of being employee transportation coordinators for Commute Seattle partner, the Downtown Seattle Association. I'm sure folks on the call know that it's pretty common for ETCs to wear many hats. So you can relate to Anna and Elizabeth taking on that role in addition to their day-to-day roles. I'm sure also many folks know that May is Bike Month, Bike Everywhere Month. If you're feeling unprepared, if you had this sneak up on you, if you're a procrastinator like me, then you are in the right place because Anna and Elizabeth are here to provide you with tools and resources to make it really easy for you to lead Bike Month programming at your work site. They've developed some easy to replicate, plug and play resources for you to become a Bike Month leader. So as they're going through their presentation today, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A feature, and we will take some time after the presentation to get to those questions. Following the Q&A, we'll also have a look ahead at more opportunities from Commute Seattle. Our program should wrap up by 11:45 a.m. today. Attendees will receive a recording of the event, and it will be available on our website afterwards for reference, along with the resources that we share today during the webinar. Now I will turn it over to Anna and Elizabeth for today's program.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm really excited today to talk about why it's so important to build a bike program and what's so great about bike commuting. We're really excited to talk about behavior change strategies and how you can help build more bike commuters in your company. We've also created, like Tara said, a toolkit for you all that has lots of different resources about how to be a Bike Month leader. Some of those things include an onboarding toolkit, 3 sample events, an informational flyer, and a commute challenge toolkit. We're hoping that you leave this feeling ready to employ these Bike Month programs yourselves at your companies. And we also want to make sure you know that all of these resources that we're sharing with you today will be available on our website, and we'll be sending them in the chat as we talk about them. And so you can easily adapt these, again, for your work sites and what you all need. With that, I'll hand it over to Elizabeth.
Thanks, Anna. I'm Elizabeth. In addition to my role as the Employee Transportation Coordinator for Downtown Seattle, I work with probably many of you, all of our employee transportation coordinators and building transportation coordinators around the city. So I just wanted to feel it's important to flag that the resources and toolkit that we've developed is informed by the feedback that we've gotten from not just our own workplace, but all of the workplaces around the city on what is helpful and how we can create programming that is easy for anyone. You don't have to be a avid bicyclist yourself to employ and make successful at your workplace. So before we jump into those resources and the how of bike commute programming, I just want to touch on why this is so important. So the first thing that I really want to flag comes straight from our recently released commute survey. There's going to be a link that's dropped in the chat now for that, but you can also check it out on our website, or you may have seen it recently featured in the Seattle Times. We have collected a ton of response data from employees across the city. And one of the most interesting findings was this Net Promoter Score, which essentially is measuring how likely employees are to recommend the mode that they use to get to work to a peer, a colleague, just anyone else. And as you can see here, who's the winner? It's the bikers. So the data that we have demonstrates that bikers are the most likely to recommend their commute. They're the happiest commuters. And I also wanted to point out that it's really interesting that walkers are the next most satisfied with their commute. And one really great thing about bike programming, we're going to be really focused on bikes, but a lot of those same programs and resources can be really, really easily benefited for all types of active commuters, including walkers, runners. I know I use our personal bike facilities and showers because I like to run to work. So it's really great that those two active commuters are those happiest employees. We want to have employees getting to work happy and ready to work. And so that's a really great reason to be promoting bike programming this month during Bike Month and beyond. Additionally, we know that there is often limited resources for transportation programming. In active commuting, there's a lot of things that you can do, and we really tried to highlight that are really low cost or no cost, that are education components, engagement, and not so much related to big ticket price options. Finally, at this point in our city and beyond, it's really market parity to have some type of active transportation. As I mentioned, I work with all of our CTR sites across the city. And from our recent program reports in 2023, we identified that 99% of CTR affected work sites offer some type of active transportation benefits. That doesn't mean that everyone is offering everything, but employees are really coming to expect that there will be some type of facilities or benefits for active commuting. And so in order to attract and retain the best talent, it's important to be matching those benefits across the board. Now that I've hopefully convinced you that it's very important to have bike programming this month and beyond, what do those programs look like? My biggest point is that it's flexible. We want to provide you with the resources that fit your time, your organizational needs, and works really for your employees. The number one thing that we would recommend is to listen to your employees and test out what's working well for you. We're going to put everything into a framework that is backed by behavioral science, and all of our tools are going to kind of build up to that. But at the core, if you take anything away from this, I hope that you take away that you can make bike programming work for you in your workplace, and it doesn't have to be anything that we directly say. We just are offering the tools to make it a little bit easier so you don't have to think through every single process. So the way that we approach behavior change campaigns, both within our organization and externally, is using, as I said, this framework of behavioral science that incorporates both the opportunity and ability for people to make a change and the motivation to do so. And in that opportunity and ability, we're looking at two big categories: information, so knowing how, that could include resources, educational events, how to bike, and then also the structures involved. So having those physical supports for any of that changes. So in this case, that would be physical infrastructure like bike facilities, HR policies, the things that really allow people to bike and make that realistic. And then the third big and very important component is motivation. If people can, just because they can and know how to, doesn't mean they want to do something. And it's really important that that motivation is sustained through habit building, community, and incentives. So keep this framework in mind. We have created all these resources for you to plug and play, adapt, alter, and take inspiration from. And we're going to walk through those in detail next. But as we're going through them, we're going to keep tying it back to which of these frameworks we feel it adapts most to, and the ways that you can think about how it would still achieve these goals, even if you're making detail-oriented changes. So with that, I'm going to pass it over back to Anna to talk about our first resource, our onboarding toolkit. Oh, sorry. Actually, just kidding. I have the first resource. The first resource is actually based on that information. And this one I honestly feel is another like most important thing. A really important characteristic for employee transportation coordinators is that you do not need to be doing everything. There are so many resources out there for you to take advantage of in the community. And so to really emphasize that and emphasize the importance of just like getting information out there, even if you don't have any further programming at your work site, we've created this flyer for you. As mentioned before, all of these will be available on our website and be dropped in the chat. This flyer just really states that May is Bike Everywhere Month. We want to make sure people know that it's a great opportunity to get excited about biking. We've got some up top, some motivational tactics of reasons why people might want to bike. Then we've got 5 quick tips of giving some access to resources that people could use, just like find a buddy, find a bike. And then we've got some events. Bike Everywhere Month with Cascade Bicycle Club has amazing events throughout the month, and they have events throughout the year. And then we've also got our Bike Month send-off that we are producing on May 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Occidental Square. We'd really recommend using something like this flyer or something else if that works better for you, just to make sure people know that it's Bike Month. Put those in your bike places like locker rooms, facilities, but you can also put it places where people who might not already be biking will also see it, such as in the lunchroom or elevators. And now I will actually pass it over to Anna to talk about our onboarding toolkit.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. So Elizabeth and I are the Downtown Seattle ETCs. And so a few months ago, we're thinking about what are we going to do for Bike Month? It's a great opportunity to get folks to try biking for the first time, to celebrate people that already bike, and maybe to get people to think about trying it again if they tried it once and maybe it wasn't for them. And so what we've learned is that from behavior change science is that catching someone when they start a new job is a really good time to get them to change how they commute, because they're already changing, what their commute is or where they're going. It's a really good time to change how they commute. So the idea was that we created this resource that could be distributed in that first week when they started their new job, to just give them all of the information right up front, so that they can make the best decision for them about what their commute might look like. We wanted this resource to be super easily accessible, something that could be kept, in a company drive or just in an open location. We wanted it to be relevant every single bike month. Like, we wanted this information to be always helpful. And then we also want it to be helpful when someone submits an address change to HR, because that's another time in which their commute is changing. And so they're more likely to think about how they might change their commute in terms of their mode and not just how they're getting there. So we created this toolkit, and then we want this to be something that y'all can use as well. And so We're going to go through some ideas of what you might include in yours, and David just put in the chat kind of like a worksheet so that you can make your own as well. Great, yeah, so when people start thinking about a new job and thinking about a new commute, there's a lot of questions that come up. Like, ooh, do I want to show up sweaty? Or where am I going to park my bike, right? And so we wanted to make sure that our toolkit had the answers to those questions, because a lot of our workplaces have physical structures in place to answer those questions and to remove those barriers. And so some of those that you might have in your building that you might include in your toolkit are things like a bike room. How do you get there? How do you access it? Lockers, are they accessible? Do you need to bring your own lock? Questions like that. Can you charge your electric bike there? Do you have showers? Do you have a mirror? Do you have a maintenance station in case someone needs to fix their bike a little bit? Do you have a hair dryer in case it's rainy out and you need to, dry your hair before you show up to your meeting? Do you offer towels, or do you need to bring your own? And then also bike commuter friendly policies, which are not physical structures, but are something that can help make biking more accessible as well. Things like, do you have a flexible dress code at your office, or a flexible start time for folks? Or can they keep their helmet at their desk, and so it's not in the communal bike room? Questions like that. Another thing that we wanted to include in this toolkit is the information pillar of behavior change. We wanted to make it super easy to figure out how you would change your commute to biking. And so we wanted to include things like the benefits of biking, always a good reminder, things like local bike laws. What the local bike laws are in Seattle might not be the same as where someone's from, or the new place where they are having their work site. We also included route planning tools, and then also maps of current bike lanes, nearby bike lanes, and then just some basic safety tips, again, to give folks an introduction to these things to make it super easy to make that transition or think about making that transition. And the last thing is motivation. Again, we know that people sometimes need a little extra push to try it for the first time, try it again, or keep going with what they're doing. And so some things that you might not think of that we wanted to make sure were in this toolkit for employees to have all this information right up front to, again, make the best commute decision for them. Your workplace might have things like financial incentives. A lot of workplaces will have, a couple incentive program where bikers will get a couple dollars a day from their workplace. Another option for commuters is a trip logging platform. Sometimes employers will have trip logging platforms where you can say, oh, I biked this day on this day. Another one is gear stipends. Sometimes employers will offer discounts or money directly towards things like helmets or bikes. And then another is transit benefits. We don't often think of riding the bus as a bike thing, but if you live at the bottom of a really steep hill, sometimes it can be great to put your bike on a bus and get up to the top of that hill and then be able to ride down, or to be able to get to the light rail, for example. Put your bike on the light rail and then finish your commute to work that way. And so those are all things that really make biking a lot more accessible. And being able to show these up front to your employees when they start a job or change their address is a really great way to make biking accessible and get them all of these information and motivation and structures to be able to change how they can.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Next, we're going to jump into kind of the fun part of Bike Month, creating some hype and excitement. We're going to talk about events. So I've got 3 events to talk to you here, which we've got different ideas of things that you could do. Again, these are not prescriptive. These are intended to be adapted, modified in any way that you would like. These were just the ideas that we came up with that we thought would be fun and would work well at our workplace. But certainly there is no pressure to do anything specific. at your workplace. We do have these flyers as Canva templates. If you'd like to use that, reduce just one more barrier. And those will be coming in the chat as well as on our website. And throughout these, we're really going to be highlighting again those different behavior change modalities. And focusing on how you can build community and excitement around biking. These are events all that you can do internally at your workplace, hosted by your employee transportation team, your HR team, sustainability team, whichever accessible person, just someone who really likes biking. But if you are interested in having Commute Seattle support you in hosting one of these events, we do offer fee-for-service programming where we can help do a transportation fair or an event such as this and do that organizational lift for you for a fee. So the first event that I'm going to jump into is really focusing on that education-based event. This could be really flexible. Here we have an example of a workshop that would have guided trip planning and updates, basic maintenance tips from maybe a colleague who really likes biking, or you could partner with a local bike shop, a tour of the bike room, office, and facilities. And as you can kind of see through all of these, we're really incorporating that information component, the motivation component by bringing people together through community, and also those structures and making sure people understand what physical amenities they have regarding biking. Some other great ideas that would really emphasize that education component could be just focusing in on one of these things. So just like a trip planning workshop or how to read a bike map or a bike maintenance workshop. And you could even, if you have really limited time, as many of us do, just send a informational video that you source from somewhere else. On YouTube, there's amazing bike maintenance videos and like how to read a bike map that all exists. And just including that in an email to employees is a really great way to kind of take that lift down. So there's lots of different options there, focusing on education. As far as structures go, because it's like really policy and barrier building based, it can be a little bit confusing on how to create events and excitement around that. And so we really suggested doing something that helps people walk through what those structures are in a way that's more interactive and tangible than just explaining. So we would recommend something like a community commute, where your entire team can go and look at the infrastructure both inside and outside of your workplace. Maybe you take a ride down on the waterfront with their new path and see how those bike map paths can connect to your office. Giving people really the tools to explore what it looks like to bike commute without the pressure of, oh no, I'm going to be late, or I need to make sure I've bought a bike already. Ensuring that people can just like take a Lime scooter or connect with public transit and still explore what facilities and infrastructure exist without that pressure, and while simultaneously building a little bit of that community, that group mindset that's going to help with motivation to carry on further. The last and kind of most traditional option is really focusing on incentives and motivation. An incentive event is both to excite people to get involved in biking if they haven't prior, and also to keep people who are already biking really engaged. That's a really key component with motivation, is the getting people there and the keeping people there once they're involved. So we would recommend something really simple, an event that rewards bikers with a treat, a monetary incentive, or some kind of recognition. We understand that budgets can be really tight. And I had a previous workplace that had a weird like statue of a biker that was like found at Goodwill, and we just passed that around people, and people were really motivated to be the biker of the month just from that little statue. So the incentive doesn't have to be big. It just has to be some kind of recognition that people feel like their workplace is seeing what they're doing and are excited. So our example here is this Bagels with Bikers, where you can refuel, meet fellow bikers, and celebrate Bike to Work Day. This is something that could be early in the month of Bike Month. This could be at the end of Bike Month. You can do this anytime that you want to like add some spice to your commute programming. It's not restricted to just this time of year as well. Piggybacking off of that in the motivation, after events, one thing that we have found to be really successful and gotten like feedback from our sites that it's successful is a commute challenge. A classic motivation technique is that friendly and healthy competition. And so we have put together the rules that we would plan to use at our workplace for a commute challenge, but these can be, again, modified and just used as examples. What's going to drop in the chat has some specific rules as far as like how trips are counted, and it uses an in-house model for collecting this data and seeing who's winning. So we just have like a Microsoft form that you can then duplicate if you want to use that, and then it'll populate into an Excel. You can just sort by the different questions, how many trips, how many miles. But if you're doing in-house and you are a Google workplace, I would really recommend using a Google form because that's what people are used to. So whatever works best for you is going to be the best strategy. There are also a lot of platforms like Loom, Ride Amigos, to name a few, that can really help you get rolling easily, but for a small fee. And they also have increased capabilities like carpool matching, integrating other modes, that can be a really exciting option, especially for bigger workplaces. The other components we would really recommend in a successful commute challenge is to get as many people involved, having really varying prizes and categories. For example, we have both trips, like most trips and also most miles. That way you're really incorporating people who are using e-bikes who may be able to go farther faster and people on analog bikes. And there's not necessarily a competition between these groups. We want to be building community and not breaking it down. We also have a component that I think is really fun is a fun photo competition. That way, if someone is just commuting once a week, they're probably not going to win most trips, but they have a way to get involved in a fun way that's really low pressure as far as the biking. And it really helps with the frequent updates on like an intranet or email blasts to have some fun photos that will encourage more people to get involved, even if they're not necessarily going to be super excited about winning. So a commute challenge overall and these real motivation techniques are great ways to get people involved in biking this month and beyond, and to keep those who are already biking feeling recognized, feeling excited, and ready to hit another year of bike to work. So with that, those are our resources. I'm going to pass it back to Tara, and we can open this up for Q&A.
All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Anna, for putting together this toolkit. I'm feeling really inspired and filled with ideas, and I hope everybody on the call also is feeling inspired and ready to implement some fresh ideas at their workplace for Bike Month and beyond. I'm not seeing any Q&A in our chat right now, and we'll give it just a minute here if anyone does have a question for Anna or Elizabeth to go ahead and place that in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be sure to get to those as they come in. In the meantime, I can highlight some upcoming opportunities from Commute Seattle before we wrap up. Okay, so coming up at the end of May, the end of Bike Everywhere month, Commute Seattle will be hosting our very own Bike Month send-off event. This is happening on Thursday, May 29th, aimed at the return home commute from 4 to 6 p.m. It'll be down in Occidental Square. We'll have some partners tabling alongside us. There will be some treats and resources. You'll have the opportunity to learn about bike maintenance. Really just a fun event in the park. So please join us. We've got a flyer there, which you can also share with your employees and at your work site. Our next Commute University will be coming up in June, and we will be talking about how to get your team on transit with Orca business programs. So this is in celebration of Ride Transit Month, which is June. So if you are not already providing a transit benefit and you want to learn more about how to do that with the Orca business programs, be sure to sign up for that and tune in to learn more. Also keep an eye out on our upcoming Insider Insights event, which we will be sharing details with employee transportation coordinators very soon on that event. This is the opportunity to take a deeper dive into the survey findings from our Seattle Commute Survey. So you won't want to miss that opportunity when it's available. Check your email for more information. And before we get going, I am just seeing a note here that the chat is showing disabled. So if you do have a question for the Q&A, it goes in the Q&A box there. We're also going to be sharing out all of those resources that were shared in the chat today. Those will be shared out in a follow-up email along with today's recording, so that you'll have the opportunity to revisit everything that you've heard today. And if you've got additional questions, please reach out at any time. You can contact us at info@commuteseattle.com. Oh, I am seeing a question here before we sign off. Thank you for this question. We've got, for Bike to Work Day, can you set up a table anywhere, or do you need approval from the city? Great question. I'm going to hand it over to our panelists to see if they've got an answer for you.
Hi. So somewhat depends on what you would like to do. I'd really recommend partnering with Cascade. They can provide a lot of guidance on Bike Everywhere Day. They have a lot of businesses that do have tables, and in the links of their like events that was shared in the chat and also will be in the follow-up, you can sign up to have a table, and then they can really provide you with that guidance, because it does depend on where the table is, whether or not you need approval from the city. And so they can help you through that process of like, this is a good spot for you. You can certainly always, of course, on your own property at your work site, have a spot there. But if you're in public places and not going through those processes, it's good to check in with the city. And there's definitely some rules around like parks and on trails and that kind of thing. But again, I'd really recommend doing that partner with Cascade. Then you'll be on the map, and other people can get involved there. And they have a very robust system that can support you through that process.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. As I said, we'll be sharing out those resources that were shared today in an email, along with that follow-up survey, to let us know what you'd like to see from future Commute University programming. And again, if you've got any more questions about Bike Month, how to become a Bike Month leader, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to share additional questions or answers to your questions. Thanks so much. And with that, class is dismissed, and have a great day, everybody. Take care.